Hello again, my friends. Welcome to another Sensitive Artist Sunday. Another week over and a new one just begun. I am your host and author, S.G. Tosh. Thank you for watching this, whether you're joining live or whether you're watching this later. It has been a kind of wild week, and by wild, I mean extremely busy. I am working super hard on getting my fourth book in the Misadventure series, Death in the Shadows, finished before it is supposed to go to its beta readers, who are all super great and patient and waiting. And they're going to dive in and tell me what still needs fixing and what's good and all of this stuff, and get it all prepped up before it comes to all of you who might buy it. But as we are watching this video, that deadline is 2 days from now. And my alpha review got back to me sort of late, so I've had to sort of push everything to the very last minute. And I have literally been working 12-hour days to try to get my final polishes in. It's all done and it all makes sense and it's all fun. You could probably read it and you'd get the story. It's a book. But being who I am, I'm trying to make it the best I can for, even as beta, this is going to be, a book, a thing that you are reading, a thing that is meant to entertain. And, if there are issues with it that you would potentially catch, I'd rather catch them first so you can spend your time on other stuff. So it's like a sort of a respect thing. And also just if I don't need to look like an amateur in front of anyone, I'd rather not. So that's the other part of it. But what it has done, so to kind of clarify, that's why I'm not at my usual chair over there while I'm back at my desk, because I'm literally I'm looking at you right here, and my manuscript is pulled up on my other screen over here. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to jump right back into that. And keep it going. Yes, even on a Sunday. As I said, it's been 12-hour days, but it'll be over soon. And that is actually what I'm going to talk about today is when you are, okay, so I'll kind of start at major and then get down to specific. So when you are a entrepreneur who's doing all-in-one, an authorpreneur, as some people call it, not a portmanteau, I mind, because it actually kind of works. You wear a lot of hats, and we hear this a lot. You're wearing, obviously you're writing. You might be doing a little bit of self-editing. That's what I'm doing right now and then you're going to manage possibly some reviews, manage an editor, manage a cover artist. I've also been doing that this week. By the way, the cover reveal is going to be June 17th. So if you're watching this before June 17th, keep an eye out. And then outside of actual production, you might be also dealing with formatting, you might be dealing with uploading, pricing, sales copy. And then this is to say nothing of running, creating and running ads, managing your ads, running your social media account. There's a lot. And, I think for me, day to day, I have kind of a, Mondays I do this, Tuesdays I do this, when my schedule is kind of laid out where I have I write every day a little bit, and right now it's a lot. I write a lot every day. I write only every day. We'll get into that in a second. But normally I write in the mornings, then I take what I call a union break, which is my lunch, which I force my boss to give me because it's only fair. So then I eat, and then I usually try to exercise or something, just take a break. And then I'll get back into the afternoons, which is different things every day. So Mondays, it's changed recently, but Mondays are my social media day. I'll create a bunch of my social media for the week. Not all of it. Some of it I do organically. And I tried when I'm not, buried. I try to be on there once a day to respond and comment and kind of engage with other people. Just to let people know I'm not a robot, which I'm not a robot. And then Tuesday is something else. Wednesday's my newsletter. Thursday's my ad day. Friday is the day I do like community stuff, like my newsletter for my writers group and things like that. So that's kind of spreads it out when things are, that's kind of like what I do every week. Those are my like weekly priorities, or my weekly tasks. Let's say I have to do those every week. There's also project work, which is like, for example, if when I decided to do redo covers, like that's a big project. But the difference between project work and these tasks are that project work, like you do it, you probably only do it once, or you do it not very often, and then it's done. So I think that's what Mondays used to be, project work. I think that's Tuesdays now. So like if I have a big project, I'll work on it on a Tuesday. If it's a really big project and I need to get it done soon, I might sacrifice a little bit of my morning to it. Just move my writing time either more into later in the week, or maybe just skip it that day when it's necessary. It works out that a lot of project work ends up being writing. So, you don't have to sacrifice your writing time if your project is writing something. So that's kind of how that works. Now, what I want to talk about this week, so that's kind of like normal. And then what has been going on this week, like I said, is I have this major project that needs to be done. It's a huge amount of work. Right now, it started out as like 105,000 words. I've cut it down to like 98, cut out 7,000 words in the past week. I imagine I'll cut out a couple thousand more before I send it. That's the other reason you want to do this before beta, is like, I don't want you guys wasting your time on stuff that is going to get axed anyway. And it just hasn't, because I haven't looked at it yet. So anyway, so like I have this massive project. It takes a ton of focus. It takes a ton of time. How am I going to get this done? And, but I'm still only one person. Like, how am I going to get this done and still kind of be in a place where everything else doesn't fall apart? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I do that super well. But I do have a system. And the first part is just understanding that, like, in a time when you're doing a big project, you're on a deadline, it's really important, you've got people who are waiting for you. And it is something that is as massive as, this is the book I'm going to sell to people. I think, and I might be the only one who ever says this, I think it's okay to let some things go. Let some things, I don't know, temporarily fall apart for a little bit. That's sort of the thing, is like, project work is temporary. You can't let for example, and this kind of goes along with knowing. So the first thing is, be okay with letting things, certain things fall apart a little bit just during this high production period. Second, know which things are okay to let fall apart temporarily and which aren't. So like for me, one of the things I won't let fall apart are my email correspondence. Like, I still put out my email to my street team this week. I don't have actually an email going out to my full newsletter, but if I did, that would be a priority. I'm going to be sending out the email to my writers group later today. Those are things that cannot be sacrificed. That being said, like, certain other concerns, social media, kind of let it go this week. I didn't have the time to do the creation. I didn't have the time to do the focused interaction. So for a couple days, a week, that's going to be gone. And I'm just going to have to deal with that. I think the way I would have done it better is I would have put up a post that's just like, I'm writing, I'll be back X day. It would have been kind of like an out of office post, but I didn't do that. But I have done that in the past, actually. So it's something you definitely can do. And whether or not people actually care that you're gone for, a week or so, it really depends on what level you're at. I think people might notice that I'm not around, but it's not like I have people waiting on me, I don't think. If I do, I'm sorry. I just typically, also, I just have like a pattern of not really talking to people in my DMs usually. Like, it's just not a way I prefer to communicate. Email is the way you want to get a hold of me. That is what I've been that's been my platform for a while. That's just true. And I've also been responding to email. Now, the last couple of days I haven't checked my email because it's been the weekend, and because it's like I'm at the last little bit, I will, it can go for a couple of days before when I'm done and I actually have time. So that's important, like knowing what can feasibly be left for a couple of days that isn't going to explode, and where you do need to be, taking breaks in your big project and actually doing something unrelated. And again, for me, it's a lot about the responsibilities I owe to other people. I don't want like people who are specifically counting on me to deliver things. So that's something I don't do. But I will say there is a caveat to that. There are things like my monthly newsletters, my monthly street team newsletters, the weekly email to my group, certain events I've said I would be at, certain things I would, said I would do, facilitate, stuff like that. There are other things that might come up in those spheres, like people who are, asking questions, people who are, in some cases, demanding things from you, demanding answers, demanding whatever. And, I actually had a couple of those types of things come up this week, where it was these sort of administrative questions about the group. I won't get into it because it's not worth it, but it's just sort of like, and in this case, the person who's asking the question was kind of getting a little bit heated about it. So I had to decide, like, am I gonna spend time dealing with that, basically arguing, or am I gonna, how time sensitive is this? And do I need to be dealing with it right now? And what I ended up doing is I kind of got the situation to a place where I felt like, okay, I've sort of handed this ball into another court, and I'm going to step back and deal with what I need to deal with for a couple of days. And once I'm in a place where I can handle this type of interaction, with the like patience and thoughtfulness and sort of holistic view that it needs in order to resolve it effectively, then I will. But right now it's not a good time. And that's another thing I want to talk about, is that when you're in a period of like super high volume work and high stress, you're not going to have the like emotional resources to do certain things either. And I noticed this because yesterday I was at a seminar that my writing group was giving. I wasn't running it, but I'm sort of the de facto person in charge. So I was like, I want to be there to support, to see it also. Like, it was a really great presentation. It was so good. And just to kind of, be a part of the group. It's part of my job. I don't get paid. It's part of my role. And as I was there, I had some people come up to me and speak to me about an issue that I am on one side of and they are on the other side of, and I was not ready for it. And I could feel myself getting a little bit frustrated, a little bit short, a little bit snippy. And then at one point, one of the group members messaged me about it at night, and I responded thoughtfully, but a bit brusquely. And I sort of looked back at the message I sent him, and I was like, ooh, that, like, it's not, I wasn't, yelling at him, but it was like, I could have handled that a little bit better. Particularly, I forgot, he offered a donation towards a thing that we are getting rid of. And that's kind of the thing that it's very, vague, but like, he offered something nice that I didn't want to take because I don't agree with what it would be funding. And I was very brusque as to why that wasn't going to happen. And, you know, I looked at my message and was like, you know, he offered a really nice thing and I was not grateful. And, you know, that's not okay. So I messaged him back and I said, thank you for the offer. And I apologized. And he was very understanding, which was great. But it just kind of shows that, like, when you're in one of these high stress periods, you're not going to be able to interact with certain types of issues as well as you would potentially otherwise. So, like, I don't know, but like at the same time that came, like, I couldn't not talk about it. Like, I was in the room and they were talking to me. It's like, I can't just be like, oh, I left my car running and just run away. Like, I mean, we could if we lived in a cartoon world, I guess, but sadly no one's figured out how to Roger Rabbit stuff, or anti-Roger, whatever. Forget that. Anyway, I had to deal with it. You know, stuff comes up. So there's not really a way to, like, you know, I talked about avoidance. I talked about sort of what's necessary versus what can go. And then there's the stuff of, like, it comes up and it's in your face, and you know, no matter how you're feeling, you're just gonna have to deal with it. And it's mostly just about, like, this, having the self-awareness to be like, okay, I'm not in a great place to deal with this right now. So I just, you know, need to, if I can not deal with it, then I won't. And if I have to deal with it, then, you know, I'm going to do it the best I can. And I mean, it is just that level of humility too. You know, I gave my response and then I looked back and I was like, that could have gone better. And, you know, I apologized. And you might have to apologize sometimes if you're in these high stress periods and you're kind of lashing out. Also very important is that these types of periods, and I can speak from experience on this for sure, these types of high production times cannot and should not go on forever. Like, the reason I'm engaging in this right now is because I know that 2 days from now, ready or not, this is going to be over. And my mom's coming to visit. I'm going to spend some time with my son. Like, I'm going on vacation for a few days. And I'm going to kind of, you know, clear down, get back to where I can be normal and handle my stuff and, you know, get back on my schedule the following week. In the past, like, seeing what I've kind of gone through this week and looking at it through the lens of, you know, being a little bit older now and having done this for a while, like, I've lived my life in a way that, like, up until recently, my entire life has been this week, where it's just like constant, endless project work. And there's no time for anything. And, you know, there's no deadline. It just goes on forever. It never ends. You never have a chance to really decompress from it. Like, you know, and that is for a long time how I ran my job, and it is not a good idea. And I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but, like, so here's the deal. And I know you're out there, but, like, if you've ever said the, like, oh, you know, things will calm down when blank happens, or I will get to it when I'm done with blah. That's a really, really, really dangerous way to live, because there's always going to be something else. You're always going to you're going to get done with it, and you're just going to be like, okay, well, now I can, you know, that's done. I can jump into, like, these 18 other things that I've wanted to work on but couldn't. And if they're not weekly tasks and they're projects, there's a chance that they could continue to just kind of ooze all over your life and take over and create a lot of stress and discontent. I mean, like, I love being productive, but like, this week versus previous weeks, I feel less satisfied than I do previous weeks. I like having the, like, little bit of work every day, and then, you know, sometimes you have a big push. But to just be pushing all the time, I'm too old for that. And I would say that even if you're, new, or you're, significantly younger than me, or even if you're older than me, anyone might consider not living that way if you can avoid it. And then the other thing to keep yourself going through these periods is just don't deny your own self-care. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I work from home, and there are days, especially when I get bogged down in a project like this, where I will go all day without getting dressed, without brushing my teeth, without, doing the basic kind of, care for myself. Just because I feel like, I don't have 5 minutes to brush my teeth and wash my face. I don't have 10 minutes to go eat lunch. Like, I'm too busy. And I've found that, like, that's my barometer for, am I too busy? If I find myself going days where, like, if it's multiple days in a row where I'm not, getting dressed until 4 p.m, if I don't brush my teeth until dinner, that means I'm too busy. And I either need to set a deadline and be finished, or I need to adjust something. So that is probably the thing that keeps me the safest from burning out, is just knowing that if you're not taking care of yourself, this is not sustainable. So that's it. I'm not sure I can totally do a recap. As you might expect, my brain is even more kind of flighty than normal, since I've been at it. I've been at this desk for a while, but we're so close. We're so close to being done. So what I'll say is self-forgiveness. You're not going to be able to do. You're not going to have the bandwidth to do a bunch of stuff when you're in a big project. Knowing what needs to be done outside of the project while you're working on it, and what can be sort of let go for temporarily. Making sure this high volume period has an end date and isn't just going to spiral on forever. Making sure that, being aware that you're not going to be able to be as patient when, things come up, and you might be a little bit reactive, and just trying to be aware of that, trying to sort of contain it as much as you can. And if it ends up, coming out and you do end up snapping at somebody, just have the humility to be able to say, hey, I'm sorry. I've got this thing going on, just be honest. People are generally pretty cool if you're honest. And then making sure you're still taking care of yourself physically while you're in this big high volume period. But I think the most important is making sure that high volume period does have a specific end date, so you know that you'll be able to get back to your normal rhythms, and into a practice that's more sustainable. And maybe I kind of touched on like how when I'm in a non-high volume period, how I do my sustainable work time, how I kind of structure my weeks, but that might be something for another video. So thank you all for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope you can take some of this advice during your high volume project, high stress, racing toward a deadline time, and keep it in mind for just general betterment, generally getting through the period faster. Well, not faster, but a little bit less frazzled by the end of it. I hope if you're going through a big project right now, you are successful. And so I'm going to get back to it here myself. Next week, I think I will be either back at my chair, or I do have an idea for something entirely different that I may experiment with next week or the week after. I haven't decided. So we'll see what becomes of next week. So have a great Sunday. Have a great week. And we will see you later. Bye.